Now, government ministers worrying about what children are taught in schools have made much in the last couple of weeks of claims that Islamic fundamentalists were trying to imbue young people with a warped view of the world. It's led to much concern about British values. But do these concerns extend also to schools of other faiths which teach extreme interpretations? Parents are allowed to choose an education for their children which fits their religious convictions. But where does belief end and bigotry begin? And Jana Ahuja reports on what's happening in a number of Christian schools.
When the Trojan horse allegations hit the headlines, Education Secretary Michael Gove declared that no pupil should be exposed to extremist views or radicalisation while at school. The government has made it clear that there is no place for religious extremism in Britain's state schools, but some private schools, which don't receive government funding, are openly teaching what could be described as a hardline Christian agenda. Private or independent schools do not have to teach the national curriculum, and at least 30 private schools in the UK and some homeschooling parents teach the Accelerated Christian Education or ACE curriculum. It's marketed as a Bible-based curriculum designed to protect children from secular lies. In science lessons, pupils are taught that the theory of evolution doesn't stand up, that the Earth is just a few thousand years old instead of the 4.5 billion years old that scientists believe. And the curriculum explicitly states that even on scientific matters, the Bible is the final authority. We spoke to one ex-pupil who has campaigned against the curriculum.
I think that essentially allowing the ACE curriculum means that we're letting children be lied to, because they're telling them things as though they're facts that are not facts. My parents sent me to an ACE school when I was 11, and they wanted me to have a Christian education. But I think the curriculum was actually more extreme even than they realised. I came out of my ACE school believing that it was against God's will for governments to provide healthcare for citizens or any kind of benefits. I was quite misogynistic because I'd been taught that women should submit and obey their husbands, and I believed that science could show us that homosexuality was immoral and wrong.
The ACE biology textbook mixes questions on cell division and photosynthesis with statements like abortion is murder, homosexuality is a sin, and AIDS is a direct consequence of violating God's laws.
We do require an Earth that's about a few
Michael
billion
Rice is a professor of science education and an Anglican priest. He believes that the ACE curriculum is letting pupils down.
The ACE curriculum and ACE schools in general, they're pretty fundamentalist, so they're right at one end of the spectrum. One of the disappointments for me is the way that some ACE schools are clearly giving the impression that you can't have a strong religious faith and accept the mainstream scientific understanding of the world. What you want is all students, whatever sort of school they're going to realise that the theory of evolution is very, very widely accepted in the scientific community. But it doesn't help students from fundamentalist Christian families to leave school thinking that the theory of evolution is just rubbish.
But currently, parents have the right to educate their children in line with their religious beliefs. The 62 pupils at Maranatha Christian School near Swindon learn the ACE curriculum. We spoke to two senior pupils.
The curriculum is based on an American fundamentalist viewpoint, and that's shipped over to here, and the teachers then kind of deliver that to us in a way that associates critical thinking and other ways of learning. I guess the influence of God really plays a big part in science and how we view that and how we're taught that.
There are a lot of people in the school that may not 100% believe in creation or may not 100% believe in evolution, but I believe that, the world was created, and that's just my opinion, but we all have our own opinion in the school and no one is forced to believe certain things.
Why do you teach? I asked head teacher Paul Medlock why creationism is taught to pupils in science lessons.
We teach them that there are these two sides to the argument. Now, the ACE programme teaches that with a heavy emphasis on the creationism being the Christian viewpoint. And no, I don't believe that it harms their education at all. After all, you know, if we're talking about choice in education, then the choice to believe in any kind of area that one chooses must be open, presumably.
So it would be perfectly okay for you to teach your pupils that the Earth was flat?
Not if I didn't believe that to be the case, obviously.
So if that was in the Bible, you would teach that it was perfectly okay to hold that as a scientific viewpoint?
Not necessarily. What the world doesn't like about biblically based views is that there are absolutes in there, and that's not a very well received kind of concept.
And do you subscribe to those absolutes?
Yeah, I do.
Like many other ACE schools, Ofsted rated this school as good and said that the curriculum was good. But what happens when pupils leave? ACE pupils don't sit GCSEs and A-levels, but instead earn the International Certificate of Christian Education, or ICCE.
3, 2, 1, open case.
But unlike mainstream qualifications, the ICCE is not accredited by Ofqual, the exams regulator. For that reason, some universities won't accept it. In essence, ACE could be regarded as a fundamentalist curriculum, delivering a little-known qualification, all with Ofsted's blessing.
Well, Professor Alice Roberts is the current president of the Association of Science Education and has called for new law to prevent creationism being taught in school science lessons. John Lewis attended an ACE school and is now involved in the development of their curriculum. Both of them are here. Why do you teach creationism in science as opposed to in religion classes?
Well, Jeremy, what I'd first say is that there seems to be some attack on ACE students and saying that they're in some way unable to have a decent academic education.
No, that wasn't my question. My question was why you teach it in
this issue first.
No, I'm asking you a perfectly straightforward question. Okay. Why is it taught in science and not in religion?
It is taught in religion, and it's taught in science. It's a potential answer to a question that all of us must face, which is not only how did we get here, but questions like why are we here? Questions like what meaning does life have and where do we go when we die? These are fundamental questions that many people ask. And I think rather than closing down questioning in students and saying we've come to one understanding of the world, we need to be open to
why are we here is a metaphysical question, it's not a science question.
Why are we here is a metaphysical question, not a science question. This is potentially true, yes.
Right.
Okay.
And yet you insist upon teaching it in science.
Well, I don't teach anything, actually. I'm just a former student.
Yeah.
Well, it's not my organisation either, no. I'm
it's an organisation you believe in.
Christian education. Yes, I do. Well, may I just explain why I believe in it? My sister is now a PhD. May I? My sister's a PhD.
Alice Roberts have a go.
Well, Alice Roberts is a PhD. She'll understand the importance of academics. My sister's a PhD. My brother graduated from Sheffield. My sister's starting her master's at Bristol. I graduated philosophy, politics and economics at York. So the suggestion that AC students are in some way academically impeded is patent nonsense.
No one suggested that. We saw a couple of very smart young students at that school. The question is not their intelligence.
It was implied in the video, I felt.
No, I don't think it was, actually.
Okay.
I think clearly there were able students there. What's the problem?
I think the problem is basically that of standards, and the government's very,
but you saw perfectly able students there going off to Cambridge.
But being taught that evolution, and this is from their textbooks, being taught that evolution is scientifically unsound, which is patently not true.
Evolution is a theory.
So is the idea that the Earth goes around the sun rather than the other way round. These are scientific theories which are...
That's a disproven idea.
So
we can establish that the Earth is not flat, as was said in that piece, but the Earth isn't flat. We know the Earth isn't flat. Empirically, we know it is round.
But
roughly.
Empirically, we know that evolution has happened.
No, we know it is still...
There are numerous lines of evidence. There's no debate in science about this, and the government accepts this.
Just because you all choose to believe the same thing doesn't mean it's true, does it?
As a scientist, we constantly test what we think is right against the evidence,
All right.
and no evidence has come to light which disproves evolution, despite what the AEC textbooks say. My main issue is that the government's quite clear that science should be taught as a comprehensive, coherent and extensively evidence theory. That's their own words in their advice to free schools. So why do we have one rule for our state-funded schools, and then when it comes to independent schools, we don't seem to mind if science is taught properly or not?
Does it matter if they're not funded by the state?
I think
if they're private schools, why shouldn't they teach what they like?
If that's an argument, then they should be able to teach that the Earth is flat, and they should be able to teach that.
They're not teaching the Earth is flat,
no,
are they?
But what you're saying is that if somebody pays
for
their children to be educated, they can teach them anything they want. And surely there should be standards. We know there should be standards because Ofsted does visit these schools. So there is a view that there should be standards that are achieved, and those standards should include the content of the curriculum, not just the quality of teaching and leadership in the school, which is what Ofsted has done before. And Ofsted is being changed, partly in response to this, the Birmingham schools issue. So Ofsted, hopefully there is going to be a tighter inspection regime coming into play where they will look at content of curricula.
When you look at this textbook of yours here, I mean, it does say that the theory of evolution is false. You believe the literal truth of the Bible, do you?
I believe that God is the creator. And do you know what that does give me?
You believe the world was created in 6 days?
Well, you'll have to forgive me. I'm not actually a scientist.
No, I'm asking you what you believe.
But then you're bringing it down to a faith question for me either way. If I believe that it was or it wasn't, it comes down to my belief.
How long did it take to create the world, then?
Again, well, you hear my answer, is that you're asking me a faith-based question that I can't answer as a scientist either way.
But you've been taught science at school, so what were you taught in science at school?
Well, no, I was taught the theory of evolution alongside the theory of creation. You know, the two were presented to me, and you know what? Having two alternatives enables me to be a critical thinker. It's notable that one of your great lines is that you want students to be open-minded, and yet you're going completely against this in what you say, and that you're saying everybody's open-minded in as much as they agree with me.
Not at all, not at all. But you can't say. I mean, your own textbooks, the ACE textbooks, say that evolution is a scientifically unsound theory, which is patently not true. I mean, this is a lie which children are being taught.
Well, I know that there's certainly a lot of critique around theory of macroevolution and all of these different areas that, you know, again, not being a scientist, I'm not well placed to comment on. And you know, you might look at Professor John Lennox at Oxford's survey of all of this issue about whether the Earth reveals a creator. He's written the book God's Undertaker, which I think surveys the issue very well and is a voice worth hearing. Could have asked him to be on the programme.
I don't think the issue here is whether evolution has happened, whether it's a reality. The issue is whether the Department for Education and the government, which holds a view on this, which says that evolution should be taught as a comprehensive, coherent and extensively evidence theory, whether that should be extended to independent schools when you're assessing standards in independent schools.
And indeed to other theories, perhaps?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you both very much.